Hello, it's Adam and Sam once again, and my word, it's a hat trick! This is our third news video of the day because we got some big news to talk about. But before we get there, Sam, it's good to see you still alive. How are you feeling now?
Still a bit
On
fuzzy.
with the headlines, here we go. We have the real reason Mysterio versus Reigns has been moved to SmackDown. We've got an update on the WWE New Japan Pro Wrestling relationship, and a Will Ospreay injury update. Stay tuned. So yes, as I'm sure you are all aware by now, Rey Mysterio versus Roman Reigns inside the Cell is now happening, not at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, but tonight on SmackDown. This is a very...
it down, basically.
Smacking it down inside the Cell. We don't know how that is going to play out, but very, very exciting stuff. And we have a sort of reported reason for why this is happening. This is from The Observer. And Meltzer writes, as far as what happened, there's no involved reason that made any sense. The word we were told is that you can't describe why. There were just a bunch of discussions on Thursday, and the discussions ended up with, let's do it on SmackDown. Interesting note here, as of press time, the plans were for Reigns to not be wrestling on the pay-per-view. So the reason is, there's been some backstage discussions, and somehow they've worked this out, but it is actually going to be the match looking at that. If Reigns isn't going to be wrestling on the pay-per-view, we are going to get a proper match tonight.
Unless there's some sort of weird situation involving Roman, pulling his contract. He's tried to do that before, or he gets injured. The Mysterios are quite dastardly for baby faces. Dominic might just hit him with a car or something, and, and everybody will be like... But they did it. They screwed Baron Corbin. I'm not going to let that go. No, I think very much that it's confusing, but there has to be a good reason if the match is going to go ahead tonight. But I'm still kind of gently expecting some sort of swerve.
I just can't imagine Reigns not wrestling on the pay-per-view. He is the face of the company.
I mean.
He's the Universal Champion. Unless something big is returned, like... is planned for Sunday, like a Brock Lesnar return or something like that, and they want an angle to play out on that show because they feel like it's bigger than the match itself. I mean, it is a pretty predictable match. Roman's not losing or anything.
I'm trying to think of anybody that could kind of interfere and be wanting to challenge Rey and kind of maybe somehow
Jimmy
take
gets involved
Roman
somewhere.
Out, I
don't know. Stay tuned. Watch tonight. Moving on, WWE and New Japan Pro Wrestling have been chatting away. These reports have been circulating for a little while now about the potential relationship between the two companies. We got an update on that, and it's not looking good for fans who do want to see Baron Corbin versus Shingo Takagi. It's looking unlikely.
That'll be a hell of a match.
Hell of a match. Meltzer again, with WWE, if there was such a deal, it would be a closely guarded secret for obvious reasons. But at this point, because it's an industry game changer. But there is certainly no hint of that, even from those who knew about the initial talks. And the assumption is that those discussions have gotten colder, not hotter.
They're called non-disclosure agreements, Dave.
Yeah, right. He's got all the scoop. It's obviously a shame for fans who do want to see those dream matches.
I mean, it's not something that will never happen. It's certainly happened before. Now might not just be the right time for it. You can never say never in the world of wrestling. But ultimately, when we've got stars rocking up on AEW and on Impact, it looks less likely unless WWE wants to play ball with a swathe of companies, which would be unprecedented, even in terms of historical connections. It's kind of like they're just trying to sign away everybody's favorite bit just to kind of put the dampener on everything else. And that goes against, I feel, the general idea of working together as a set of promotions.
For sure. I mean, it feels like the relationship between AEW and New Japan, rather, is heating up. So this doesn't really surprise me massively. There is an interesting note regarding Daniel Bryan. It's written, Daniel Bryan is a free agent and he does want to work in New Japan. Just clarifying the fact that Daniel Bryan hasn't re-signed with WWE yet. He is a free agent.
Just the possibility for matches. It's scary, but...
terrifying.
I wish we could have seen Bryan Shibata. I think that would have been, both in their prime, that would have been an unbelievable
Could still happen.
Match.
I mean, maybe he won't sign with WWE. Maybe he will just go off to New Japan. The desire is there. Speaking of desires, Bobby Lashley desires an MMA return. He's been talking on the Fightful podcast about returning to MMA, saying, I have the hunger. My boxing coach just hit me up this morning, so we'll be boxing here in a little bit. I did some strength and conditioning, so I'm in great shape. I think one thing that I will be doing is competing in jiu-jitsu tournaments. That's not as stressful on the body. I've always wanted to do a bare knuckles fight. I've talked to the bare knuckles owner. We talked a few times about possibly doing a fight. I may have to bring that by Vince before doing it. He says he stays ready so he can do it if he wants. And he says, I think if I do MMA, it will definitely have to be under Bellator because I'm still contracted by Bellator. Bare knuckles, I don't know if I'll be able to do it just based on that Bellator contract. But we have talked about it, and jiu-jitsu he definitely wants to do. I mean, I think it would be really cool. Imagine if he was still WWE champion and then goes and successfully wins, successful in MMA again. That adds an air of legitimacy to him, as if he needs it. But...
And, you've got that link there, and provided Bellator, say it was Bellator, and they were happy to work with WWE on it, we could see footage of it, we could really build up some more elements of the Lashley character.
And then Lesnar squashes him.
We can get across the MMA aspect in a way that it's a little more clear, kind of like when he was in Impact and he initially started going off and doing the MMA stuff. I think it was a lot more clear that Bobby Lashley wasn't somebody to be messed with back then. Certainly it's changed since he's come back to WWE, treat a lot more legitimately, but I think this, as you said, would just add that little bit of extra sheen to it.
Absolutely. Moving on once again, WWE Summerslam fast approaching. It's on my birthday. Put it on your calendars now. Mark that off. The 21st of August, and tickets selling very, very well. This follows all the news that WWE are treating this as a big, big deal. It's going to be WrestleMania worthy. You know what I mean. It's going to be as big as Mania. And tickets selling well, as I say. Just 3,000 seats remaining. So if you're thinking of going, I would get on Ticketmaster ASAP. Will Ospreay. We got an injury update on Big Willie. And he said that he's got his MRI results back on his lower back this week. And he said that the news wasn't the best, but they did say the damage was treatable and the results have gotten him fired up to return. I mean, he's already calling out new IWGP champion Shingo Takagi, who of course has an upcoming match with Kota Ibushi not too far away. So we don't know how long Will's going to be out. Obviously, we send him our best. Finally, we've got an interesting one here regarding ring entrances on NXT, and this is about the length of time it takes a superstar to get to the ring, and a little change that you may have noticed or may be noticing in the not too distant future on NXT TV. Once again from The Observer, one of the reasons the ring entrances have been cut back as far as time on the NXT TV show is Shawn Michaels felt that long ring entrances gave the viewers more time to check out AEW. So if people are getting bored when MSK are pegging it to the ring and they're flicking over
just
to die. I mean, they're on different nights now anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, he said that it was actually came from Rebecca, Sean's wife, who said that she was a little bit bored while watching some of the wrestlers come into the ring, and that might turn people off.
It's an element of live wrestling that for certain we had to deal with quite a lot in a different life when somebody wants to make a minute and a half intro to their entrance and wait and wait and wait and wait and wait and wait and wait, and then they step through the curtain, and then it's just like all the way around the ring, a big pose off on each corner. It's like, you're not Steve Austin. Just get out there.
Yeah, I was watching back some early Drew McIntyre stuff, and it took him ages, with Broken Dreams.
It was like, just
and it was good though, because it builds them up, but you don't necessarily want to see that every week on TV. Maybe save the longer entrances for the pay-per-views and make it feel more special.
That's it. And certain characters, obviously, it leans in well. The Undertaker's a big undead warrior, and, he's famed for his long entrances. Triple H's big grand pay-per-view entrances. There is a place for it, but yeah, when it's everybody every week and the entrances are just getting longer and longer, you've got to pull that stuff back so that you do have more time for promos, in-ring stuff, matches themselves. There's so much more you could be doing than focusing on entrances.
For sure. Taking nothing away from a great entrance, though.
Of course.
Do love a good entrance. So stay tuned to the channel. We've got some interesting stuff coming up. Tom Campbell will be joining us a little later on today with every rumoured appearance at WWE SummerSlam 2021 and the likelihood of those wrestlers appearing. So check that out on the channel. That'll be up pretty damn soon. We've got the podcast later tonight, and we'll be back tomorrow with more wrestling news. Take care of yourselves. All the best. Goodbye.